Hi, I'm Brian. Kettle's on, make yourself a cup of tea. Now today is the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. And I just want to take a few minutes just to talk about this fantastic game franchise. There's not many franchises that can run for 35 years and still be going strong. Obviously, Mario had his 35th anniversary last year, and now it is the Legend of Zelda's time for their 35th anniversary. Now, I have fond memories of this game franchise. The first Zelda game I ever played was Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And despite it being regarded as one of, if not the worst game of the franchise, I love it. It is the first Zelda game I played, and if I hadn't liked it as a child, I wouldn't have got into the series and I wouldn't still be a fan of it now. Now, I'm not claiming I've played all of the games, because I haven't. I've started several games and I've never completed them. Games such as Wind Waker, I am right at the end of, but have never actually gone back to finish it. I couldn't get into Skyward Sword, but I am looking forward to the HD remake of that on the Switch, which will now allow me to play it using a D-pad rather than the Wii motion controls, which hopefully will get me through the entire game. Obviously, the game's had several styles over the years. It started off as a top-down 2D adventure with no real explanation of what to do. An open world, go and explore. And in Zelda 2, not as open world, go and explore as much as the first Zelda game was. There was more of, you have to do this part to progress to the next part, you need this item to progress to the next item, which that became a staple of the Zelda series. The Zelda series started being cemented into the franchise what it is today in the Link to the Past. That is where a lot of the stuff which is still part of the franchise is still in today. The overworld, the huge overworld map, the Dark World, the Master Sword was introduced, the more linear storylines, a lot of the races that are in the Zelda series that were introduced in A Link to the Past. In the late 90s with Ocarina of Time, Zelda moved into 3D, and Ocarina of Time is now still regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. It was one of the most influential games of all time. It introduced the day-night cycle along with the Z targeting. That was a brand new concept which they invented for the game. It was a huge map for the time. Obviously, looking back now to Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time is a tiny map, but for the time it was released, it was a huge open world map, and it's aged brilliantly. Obviously, off the back of Ocarina of Time, we got one of the darkest Zelda games, Majora's Mask, which is another fantastic game done in the same style as Ocarina of Time, and is one of the very few direct sequels what they've ever done in the Zelda franchise. This was partly due to the fact that they had to use pretty much the same engine to run it. It needed to be completed in a year, which is why it is a short game, but with a lot of side quests, especially the mask collecting to fill it out. It was a restriction that they had to work with at the time. And then you've had the cel shaded games such as Wind Waker, which nobody really liked at the time it came out. It looked very cartoony, and Nintendo at the time had teased a more realistic look for Link and Ganondorf, but that turned out to be the models for Super Smash Bros. But Wind Waker art style has aged very well and still holds up today. Nintendo did finally do a more realistic, darker art style for Legend of Zelda in Twilight Princess, which is one of my favourite entries into the franchise. It's a fantastic game. They kind of went back to the cel shaded style with Skyward Sword. It was a very pastel-y, beautiful looking game, but I just couldn't get into it with the Wii controls. Now, I know Twilight Princess was released on the Wii, but that was actually ported over from the GameCube as it was designed for the GameCube. And Twilight Princess on the Wii did actually change Link forever. Up until that point, Link had been left-handed, but with most of the population being right-handed, and the Wii remote being the function for the sword, they had to change it so he was right-handed. Now, it is the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda today, and I just want to say happy anniversary to probably my favourite gaming franchise of all time. The only one coming close to it would be Metal Gear Solid So Link, it has been a pleasure going through all your adventures with you, and I look forward to many more years of more adventures. That's all from me. I'm off to make a fresh cup of tea.